Avatar Meher Baba and a group of Eastern and Western disciples left England on the 27th of April 1932 for Lugano, Switzerland. Meher Baba, Adi K. Irani, Dr. Ghani Munsif, Chanji Dada Chanji, and Baba's brothers Behram, Jal and Dadi Jr. from the East, Kitty Davy, Minta Toledano, Delia De Leon and Kim Tolhurst from Europe traveled together. Margaret Krask joined them in Lugano on April the 30th, 1932. 7 from the East and 5 Europeans, Kitty Davy exclaimed. Did ever such a party go abroad together before? We thought nothing of it. All seemed natural with Baba looking after us. On April 29, 1932, Baba went for an hour's trip by boat on Lake Lugano with a group. They then went by car to a spot nearby where the Locarno Peace Treaty had been signed. From there, the party went by car to a beautiful sanctuary, the Madonna Del Sasso Church, that is, the Our Lady of the Rock Church, built on a hillside above the town. The Madonna del Sasso is a sanctuary and pilgrimage church in Orselina, above the city of Locarno in Switzerland. It is the principal site and the goal of pilgrimage in the city. The sanctuary of the Madonna del Sasso, dedicated to Our Lady of the Assumption, was founded, according to the sources, in 1480, following the apparition of the Virgin Mary in the place called Al Sasso della Rocca to the Franciscan monk Bartolomeo Piatti from Ivrea. Brother Bartolomeo, friar minor of the convent of St. Francis of Locarno, was a devoted and pious man, devoted to prayer, silent work, and almsgiving. Bartolomeo was particularly devoted to Mother Mary, and the story goes that one night, while he was praying in the open air, heaven opened and Mary appeared to him holding the infant Jesus in her arms. Mary appeared in the open sky, then descended to the path from Locarno leading up to the Sasso, stopping on the rocks above. The next morning, the brethren, not seeing him return to the convent, became concerned about his fate and promptly went to look for him. They found Bartolomeo still outdoors and in an ecstatic state. One day, Brother Bartolomeo left the Locarno convent and went up to the Sasso, where he worked to build a small chapel on the rocks, and here he retired in hermitage for the rest of his days. This was followed by the construction of the first church of Santa Maria Assunta in 1485 to 1487 and a small house for the friars called the Casa del Padre. In 1534 the convent was built, whose structure, enlarged and transformed in the following centuries, still exists. The Sacromonte developed later with the construction of the first chapels and with the opening of the Via Crucis, 1621, that is, the Stations of the Cross or the Way of the Cross. It develops along an ascending path, symbolically understood as a purifying path that leads to the sanctuary, along the Via Crucis, with edicules and chapels dedicated to the life of Christ and Mother Mary. The complex of the Madonna del Sasso is entrusted to the care of the Capuchin friars. The sanctuary preserves important works of art, such as the statue of the Madonna del Sasso, about 1487, attributed to the Master of Santa Maria Maggiore, the flight into Egypt, about 1520 by Bramantino, and the transport of the Christ to the sepulchre, 1864-1870 by Antonio Cesari. Baba entered the church and remained seated there for 10 to 15 minutes. Kitty Devi wrote, "Some of us went up to the altar rails to kneel. Baba loved these simple Italian churches with their statues, crucifixes and pietà. Baba would point out things and explain things to us. He would talk about the different characteristics of the disciples portrayed in pictures and scenes around the church. He loved the portraits of Mary Magdalene and Mary, the Mother of Christ. Baba explained, "It is I who is on the crucifix, and for this reason I did not remove my hat when entering the church." Baba then explained about the different characteristics of Jesus' apostles and remarked about Mary Magdalene's repentance and love for Jesus. There were terracotta sculpture groups of Jesus and the disciples, and a large crucifix was over the altar at the front of the church. While looking at the figures depicted at the Last Supper, Baba commented, "I loved John intensely. I remember John and Judas more often, though I had great love for Peter too." There are many things about Jesus and his circle that are not yet known to people, as in books such as the Bible so many changes have been made. I will explain later on. When I break my silence, clothed in the simple sadra which I wear in India, people will see me as Jesus. I am the self-same Christ who was nailed on the cross. For the welfare of others, I undergo terrible suffering, and I suffer infinitely. I am daily being crucified as I suffer for the whole world. I am being crucified every moment, even now. I remember a humorous incident in the life of Jesus. A very stout man tried to kick Jesus when he was carrying the cross, but he was so fat that while trying to kick him, he fell down. I remember it well. When I, as Jesus, ordered a pit to be dug to bury a member of my circle, Peter completed the work with his fingers, thereby injuring them badly, and to the point that one finger was fractured and the flesh lacerated. But the very next day it was healed by my simply blowing on it. Kitty Devi wrote, "As we came down from the church on the hill, we met an old man with a lovely white beard seated on a bench. I think he was blind. He was begging. Baba sat down beside him and took his hand and told us to give him a coin. Baba said he was a good man and that he knew him well." They returned to Lugano at 7 p.m. after stopping at a restaurant for tea and cakes.